This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Blood Red podcast. My name's Dan Kay and I'm making my hosting debut today. So I'm hopeful that three of my esteemed colleagues from the Liverpool Echo sports desk will be gentle with me. I'm joined by, on my left-hand side, our Liverpool correspondent, both home and away, Paul Gorst. How are you, Paul?
I'm good, Dan, yeah. How are you?
All right, slightly stopped shaking now. Now I'm got the ball rolling here. Mr. Ian Doyle, how are you, sir?
I'm okay.
Good. And to my right, Mr. Joe Rimmer. How are you, kid?
That was seamless. It was great.
It was.
Really good
It's
stuff.
almost like this wasn't Sprangle me 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, you did the both home and away and all that.
Yeah. Well, it's drilled in now. It's like muscle memory, isn't it? Yeah. Right, well, first off, we'll talk to our two lads who've been up at Melwood this afternoon to hear Mr. Jurgen Klopp in his pre-Burnley press conference. He had a few things to say. What were the standout parts for you, Paul?
Possibly the stuff on Bobby Duncan. He was asked a question and he was actually asked, am I okay to ask this question? And he paused and he said, you are okay, but I'm not going to say a whole lot because everything I say is, he's very aware of the profile of himself, isn't he? So anything he says is just blown up times 10 and it's on every website and newspaper around. So he kept his counsel to a degree and he made a general point about young players and he said, only Lionel Messi at 17 can do what he wants and say what he wants. Everyone else would be wise to listen to the coaches and listen to the people that they've got around them and be patient. That was the message. These young players who want to break into the first team, that's great and it's superb that they've got ambitions like that. Maybe to replicate someone like Trent Alexander-Arnold, but patience is the key because they're European champions and they've got good players and great players in pretty much every position. So it wasn't aimed at Bobby Duncan per se, it was more of an overarching point, but that would definitely apply to Bobby Duncan. So that was his message.
It would have been very easy for him, Ian, wouldn't it, for Jurgen just to say, sorry boys, shutting this down straight away, not going to broach it at all. I think it says a lot about his openness and his approachability that we've seen in getting on for 4 years as Liverpool manager, even though he obviously was, as Gorsty said, acutely aware not to give the press any easy headlines. He wasn't going to shy away from it either.
No, I mean, Gorsty's right. He didn't really want to say anything on it, did he? He said the club's issued a statement and that would be the end of that. But then he was asked a bit later on, actually, to a question that was very well worded, wasn't it? Where even Jurgen Klopp said, that's a very smart question there. And he did answer it and he did make the point about patience. And I think that's something that he said before. I mean, just talking about Bobby Duncan, when we saw that story come out, what was it now? Wednesday. It was Wednesday, wasn't it? Yeah, Wednesday, we were like, oh no, he's like, at first you thought it wasn't real. At first you thought it was some kind of a joke, but obviously it wasn't. And, it is a bit of patience. Players do need patience, certainly at that age. I mean, you mentioned Trent. He's obviously kind of an exception to that particular rule. But even then, there was an exceptional set of circumstances meant that he was actually getting into the team. It was Klein got injured against... against before the game against Manchester United.
Full
was
debut
it
at Old
now?
Trafford,
February 2017 now, I think it was. January 2017.
Mane had gone off the
1-1 game, yeah. So, and even then he didn't then feature, I don't think, regularly until the following season. So, for Trent, he had a little bit of weight. But Trent, you always thought he was somebody that could come through and he was always touted. For Bobby Duncan, it's different because he's a striker playing at the under-18, and now he's got through to the under-23 level inside one season. So for him, that's progress. So maybe he does need to recognise the fact that he's actually done a step up already with Liverpool. And I think because he went off on the tour, though, and scored against Tranmere, and he's been in and around the first team over the summer, that he's come back and he perhaps thought, I'll be getting into the squad. And, Ryan Brewster's not got into the squad, and he's somebody who is ahead of him. And look who else is ahead of Bobby Duncan, Mohamed Salah, Roberto Firmino, Sadio Mane, Divock Origi. There's three of the best strikers, probably the best forward line in the world. Another guy who scored in a Champions League final and a semi-final. And you got Ryan Brewster, who's played in a World Cup final, albeit at under 17 level, but he's somebody that they've expected a lot of. And he's somebody who's had to show patience as well. So while Jurgen Klopp didn't want to refer to Bobby Duncan, as Gorsty said, basically, it was a pointed remark. Not so much at him, because he did make a mention of the parents as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I think it's just that youngsters have to recognise they don't necessarily have to be in the first team at 18. Because if, Salah, Firmino, Mane at 18 years of age, would they have been in the Liverpool first team? Of course they wouldn't.
I don't think they were in the first team at the clubs they were playing for at the time. It takes time to get to that level, doesn't it? Joe, one thing that struck me when listening to the short section that Jurgen Klopp was prepared to talk about this today was when he talked about how one thing that's fundamental to their approach to young players at Liverpool is that they care about their progress, not just as footballers but as people. And obviously, understandably, he was unwilling to get into specifics over the Bobby Duncan situation. But from what you've seen since Klopp's been at Anfield, would the approach to his squad, the club, the fans in general, would you say that bears out?
Definitely. I mean, it's a strange one with Bobby Duncan because, by all accounts, one of the reasons he was desperate to come to Liverpool, and apart from the fact it is his boyhood club, is that everything that Klopp's done with young players and the progress of the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold. And at Man City, he never felt like he'd get that breakthrough. And I think Klopp's got a good track record with young players. I feel like his agent just went low this week to try and almost sever all ties and force Liverpool's hand. And I think it shows that they care, that they're not doing that. They could just make an easy decision here and say, right, that's the end of it. Off you go. And the fact that they're almost willing to come out, put a public statement out, and then try and rehabilitate. Not rehabilitate isn't the right word, but get Bobby Duncan back into reintegrate Bobby Duncan back into the under-23s and get him back playing again. And I think that says a lot about them. So Duncan, you can see that. And I don't mean this in a negative way, he's got a bit of an ego, and a lot of young players and a lot of players have an ego, and I think you need one to get to the very top. But he also can't allow that ego to run away with itself and force him to make bad decisions. And I think his agent should be doing the opposite of what he's doing and saying to him, look at all the progress you've made this year. Be patient, work hard, and the rewards will come, and you'll get a bigger contract, you'll get more first team experience. It will come. And to be 18 and even want to consider a move to Fiorentina, it's not as if I could almost understand if it was a club that you thought, right, you're gonna get in the first team and you're gonna be exposed. But Fiorentina, it just doesn't make sense. And do
you think money was part of it?
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously he wanted a new contract. He would have thought, oh, well, I was with the first team this summer. But Liverpool have got a wage structure there, haven't they? Especially for young players.
And they're always
not going to break it.
Yeah, exactly. They've always been keen ever since the days of Brendan Rodgers, because when he used to speak about it, saying they didn't want to give them too much too soon, because then they just, not say they're down tools, but they think they'd made it, and they perhaps for some of them, not all of them, but the hunger wouldn't be there to keep progressing and improving.
Yeah, I think performance-related pay, I think, has been something that's been talked about, certainly from a fan's point of view, as people would like to see in the game. And I think if ever an incident proved or certainly illustrated how sometimes money can skew the perspectives of young footballers, this is it. Moving on, Gorst, another individual who was mentioned, who the manager talked about today, who maybe isn't having the most enjoyable spell of his Liverpool time at the moment, is Xherdan Shaqiri.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was with a slightly different slant, in that while Klopp said, I think the quote was something along the lines of, he's not the happiest at the moment, he's not rocking the boat. Tell us a bit more about what you made of that.
Well, he said that is he the happiest at the club at the moment? No. But is he showing signs of it? No. And that's fair enough, isn't it? Shaqiri hasn't played a minute of Premier League football this season, and you could maybe understand a little bit of frustration on his part, because he's been pretty much in and out since the turn of the year, hasn't he? He obviously played against Barcelona in that Champions League semi-final, but other than that, you'd have to go through his minutes with a fine-tooth comb, and I can't really think of anything off the top of my head that's outstanding. But he is someone who Liverpool will need. Klopp said that himself. They're not exactly blessed with options beyond the front three, are they? I think maybe him and Origi between them are going to shoulder that responsibility if any of those front three doesn't play. And Liverpool will need them, there's no doubt about that. It's early in the season. The front three haven't really shown any signs of fatigue. They've basically carried on where they've left off, haven't they? Hit the ground running, particularly Mo Salah. But Liverpool are going to get... They're going to hit a sticky patch, or there's going to be an injury or two, and Shaqiri will be needed at some stage. So for now, I suppose patience is the watchword for him as well. And it's good to hear that he's basically taken a step back from Switzerland, hasn't he, to focus on his club, which I think most Liverpool fans would welcome, and we'll see how we go over the next few weeks. Might even be a game from tomorrow at Turf Moor.
I mean, that's certainly a sign of his commitment and determination to try and make a success of his career at Liverpool, the fact that he has withdrawn from the Switzerland squad for this forthcoming international break in. Obviously, this is the last game tomorrow at Burnley before the 2 weeks off. But obviously, once we resume in the middle of September, the Champions League gets underway. Do you agree with Paul that it's likely to be possibly during that spell that's when we'll start to see the Swiss back in a red shirt and doing his stuff again?
Well, I think so. I mean, they can't. Of course, he just said those front three aren't going to play every single game. And also, you've got to bear in mind that Sadio Mane had about 2.5 weeks rest. I think Firmino and Salah only had 3. And I know it's kind of changed from the days where players had 9 weeks off. Just felt like
Some
9
players
weeks. Felt like 9 months. Yeah, somewhere, yeah. They'd have about 9 weeks off and then come back and they'd be 2 stone overweight or whatever. Those days are long gone now because the breaks are so short. But they still need time to, if they're playing the intensity that Liverpool play at, they're going to need breaks. They're going to need to step back a little bit. The Shaqiri thing's interesting because I think partly as well with him not playing for Switzerland is, I think they're basically, no matter what happens, the European Championships qualifying thing is just so convoluted because they got to the UEFA Nations League finals. No matter where they finish in their group, they're already through to the playoffs. So it's almost like the games almost don't count. I think England are in the same position. So he didn't have to do that, did he? He didn't have to. He's got some 80-odd caps for his country and he's somebody who loves playing for Switzerland. So for him to do that, it is a big deal. And it also underlines how much he wants to still make it at Liverpool. He'll have been told by Jurgen Klopp, look, as Gorsty said, as Jurgen Klopp said in his press conference today, he's going to get chances. We've only played a couple of games this season. If you think back to last year, it was around later September, October, November when he was playing, when they did switch to a 4-2-3-1, which suited him more. And there will be times when Liverpool, when they haven't got all 3 of the front 3 available, they may go, right, we're going to switch things around. And that's what he's there for, and that's why he will play. And that the interesting line for me from Klopp was that he wasn't much about Shaqiri, but about all of them, that they have to make sure they're ready when they come in. And for Shaqiri to do this, that underlines that he's absolutely determined to be ready when his chance comes.
I think, Joe, this shows as well, doesn't it, the ideal that Klopp has of a squad that is united, that is on the same page, that will go the extra mile for each other. We saw, I think that the prime example would be that second leg against Barcelona when the 2 heroes of the night were Origi and Wijnaldum, 2 of the lesser heralded lights. In light of what's happened with Bobby Duncan this week, I think Shaqiri really provides a great example for the rest of the squad in terms of the standards of professionalism and teamwork that the manager expects.
Absolutely. I've been really impressed by him since he came to Liverpool because I think he came in with, perhaps unfairly, a bit of a reputation of, I wouldn't say a troublemaker, but somebody who's not afraid of speaking his mind when he's not happy. And I think we all almost expected for when he wasn't in the team for him to go away on international duty and say that he deserved this, that and the other. And he's never done that. He just seems to have got his head down, worked hard every single time he's been given an opportunity. I think he's done well. Whether he's made assists or scored goals, he's certainly made his influence tell. So I feel a bit sorry for him, but I just think the thing with Shaqiri is that he is a bit of a luxury player. As Doyle mentioned there, it felt like when he was needed last season, I think there was a couple of reasons why Liverpool tweaked their formation, but they tweaked their formation to get him in the team, and I don't think we've seen him play that often when they've played their traditional sort of 4-3-3. He seems to play in that 4-2-3-1, wasn't it? So, look, if there's an injury, I think they wouldn't hesitate to do that again, but I think that was also, might have been to get the best out of Fabinho at the time. He was still settling.
I think it was also because Firmino and to a lesser extent Salah hadn't started the season particularly well.
And it got Salah up front, didn't it?
Yeah.
I think if Firmino got injured, I think they probably, which touch wood, that never happens, but they'd probably go back that way and they'd push Salah further forward and bring in Shaqiri. But yeah, I feel a bit sorry for him. He's a bit of a luxury player, but he's worked hard at Liverpool and I think he will get chances in the coming weeks. And just to go back to your point, I also think that's another reason why we didn't see many transfers in the summer, because it is a close-knit squad. It is a squad that has got a lot of players that seem to work for each other. And if you just bring in people in for the sake of it, that's when you start causing issues, and that's when you start having players speaking out and not being happy. And sometimes having a tight knit squad is a little bit of a risk if there are injuries, but at the same time it's good if there isn't.
Moving on to Burnley tomorrow, Liverpool's fourth Premier League game of the season. It was last season's fixture at Turf Moor. I think a lot of people will look back at as a bit of a turning point for the Reds. Really, it was if I remember rightly, it was the Wednesday night after the Origi 90+6 derby. Yep. There was the trip to Bournemouth the following Saturday coming up, and it was very much felt in the run up to it that this could be a real testing week for Liverpool. We'd seen it so many times in years gone by. A great result against Everton, Man United, whoever, only to slip up against one of the so-called lesser lights. The Reds went a goal down and then fought back to win very impressively 3-1. But it was a bit of a landmark day in Joe Gomez's season, wasn't it? Because he suffered a broken leg in that challenge in the first half with Ben Mee, having been an absolute, pretty much first choice for the entire season up to that point alongside Van Dijk. And as we approach the fixture again, he kind of finds himself very much behind the pecking order in terms of Joel Matip. I know you've written a piece for Blood Red this weekend for the Saturday Football Echo on Gomez. Tell us a bit more about how the significance of this game for him.
He hasn't.
Haven't I?
It's Oxlade-Chamberlain, but...
You've given a wrong steer there.
This is what happens when you land this on someone with 5 minutes to go.
For Joe Gomez, that game in December at Turf Moor, it's pretty much the archetypal Turf Moor game, isn't it? It's such a cliche and a stereotype of going there when it's wet and windy and dark and it's cold and they're looking to put the boot in, and that's exactly what they did. And Liverpool, to their immense credit, went a goal down, but just showed the character that they've done on so many occasions since. Character that has kind of been forged over the last year or so that wasn't always there for Jurgen Klopp's side. So that was a tough night for them, but they got through it. It could have easily been 2-2, couldn't it? You remember Alisson's wonder save in the last second, and Andy went up the other end and made it 3-1. But yeah, it was a turning point for Gomez for the worst. Under that challenge from Ben Mee, he was superb until then the first 3 or 4 months of the season alongside Van Dijk, and then he gets that leg fracture and he doesn't feature again until April. And he hasn't really got back on the side since, has he? To be fair to Joel Matip, he's been excellent, and Matip wants the shirt at the moment. So it was a turning point for Gomez, but I think personally he's got years ahead of him, and eventually we will see him become the first choice centre back. But for now, he might just have to kick his heels on the bench or settle for bit part roles here and there at right back and maybe in the League Cup at centre back.
Ian, we'll get on to actually picking our team for tomorrow, towards the end of the podcast. But Gomez has featured, not just at centre back but at right back for Liverpool. Bearing in mind the kind of unique challenge the Reds will face at Turf Moor tomorrow, would there be a certain kind of sense of would it be cathartic almost to put Gomez back in a sense of full circle? Do you think he would be a good pick for tomorrow?
Well, I think what people forget about that game against Burnley is that he actually was playing right back that day. He was playing right back because Matip had come in to partner Van Dijk at centre back, and it was Liverpool basically made 7 changes from the team that played Everton. When they went to Burnley the year before on the New Year's Day, they made 7 changes then as well. So I can't see Liverpool won't make as many changes this time around. But if Gomez does play, I think he might play right back. I think, we know Burnley are going to play. They make no secret about the way that they do things, and they've started the season quite well. Ashley Barnes is somebody who's in a bit of form. And I think Trent, for all his qualities, and he's a better defender than most people say, but Joe Gomez is better defensively. He's probably better in the air. He's got a bit more robust. I think he may play at right back, so it will be squaring the circle a little bit for him. But I don't think he'll have any problems if he gets given the starting role at Burnley. I think he'll probably quite relish it, to be honest, because it'll give him another opportunity to prove not only that he's over the injury, but also he's match fit. Because I think when he played the first 3 games of the season, he played more in that week than the previous 8 months combined. So it's a slow process for him, but he's actually been physically fit for 4 months now? 4 months. So it's just about a matter of getting sharper, and the only way he's going to do that is by playing.
Would it make sense, Joe, bearing in mind, as we know, once things resume again in mid-September, there is going to be a glut of games with Liverpool basically playing at least twice a week for the foreseeable future, to make sure the likes of Gomez and others have a few more miles in their legs, so they're able to hit the ground running when this thick and fast set of games arrives.
Absolutely. I did think Klopp said in his press conference that there wouldn't be too many changes tomorrow. But I agree with Doyle. I think we could see him play right back. I just think with the threat that Burnley pose and the physical threat that he might switch that round. He did that last season. Wouldn't surprise me if he does it again. I don't think he'll mess about with that centre-back pairing for now. But I think once the games start coming thick and fast, I think that's when we will see him tweak it, especially in the Champions League games and perhaps even the League Cup. So I think Gomez will get his chance back at centre-half to sort of put his stamp. Because I get the feeling Klopp, and that's why he started the season, didn't he, Gomez at centre-half, and I get the feeling Klopp wants him there. Yeah. Well, I think we all know he wants him there long term, but I think Klopp almost wants to give him the chance at the start of the season to nail that place back down, and Matip deserves to be there at the moment. But I like Gomez. I hope he plays tomorrow. I think he's a better right back than perhaps people give him credit for. He's just such a different style from Trent, isn't he? Yeah. So we're used to seeing a very attacking right back, and when you see someone who's perhaps his instinct is to defend a little more, you don't think they're quite as good. They're just a different style, and I think that'll suit Liverpool quite well at Burnley.
Okay, moving on, having already teased it slightly ahead of time, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. He's going to be in the Echo tomorrow, isn't he? And he has been awarded an England call-up for the forthcoming set of international fixtures. Now, I'm sure I'm probably not the only the only Liverpool fan who winced slightly, and when I heard that he got the call-up, because since time immemorial, Liverpool players have been getting called up for England and getting injured. But taking a step back from that, after what the lad's been through over the last 18 months, I can imagine that getting that call-up yesterday, was it? Yesterday would have been a real kind of important moment for him, and would have given him an awful lot of encouragement and self-belief really on his road to recovery.
Yeah, if you look back at the last 16 months now since he picked up that injury against Roma, and it's been a slow process for him. He basically missed out on the entire last season, didn't he? Missed two Champions League finals, missed the World Cup with England. And then it's turned for him the last 8 to 9 days. He's been given his contract extension, which is just reward for all the hard work and the devotion he's given towards getting himself fit. And then that's been followed up with a first call up to the England squad since March last year. So if he plays against Bulgaria or Kosovo in the next few weeks, it'll be his first England cap since March 2018, and fair play to him. I know, as you say, Dan, a lot of Liverpool fans don't like to see the players getting called up to England squads and prefer that they chuck it all in early, but he's a big... He loves playing for England, doesn't he? I know he was in a role as an analysis for Sky Sports, a few months after his injury, commentating on England, and he loves playing for them. So fair play to him. I think he's got it on the basis of that performance against Southampton, because he wasn't great in the Super Cup, but he was very, very good against Southampton, much improved, and he's a great option for Gareth Southgate.
Ian, it's understandable to a certain degree, isn't it, why certain Liverpool fans feel...
Try not to be attacked by your microphone.
Life of its own there. I'm sure you and many can appreciate why, going back to John Barnes, Jamie Redknapp, even further, why Liverpool fans have had a certain position or certain feelings about their players going off for international duty. But I feel, certainly as I get older, that taking our kind of fan hat off and putting a more objective head on, for individuals and individual footballers, it's a massive deal for them playing in the country, whether they're English or British or not. And ultimately, Liverpool can often be the beneficiaries if a player if a player feels truly fulfilled. And for many of them, that will involve playing for the national side.
Well, that's it. I mean, it was Jamie Carragher, wasn't it? He was always quoted where he said that, I'm more bothered about Liverpool than I ever was for England. But he didn't say, I didn't care about England, did he? Yeah, I mean, it's right that, the players are more bothered about their clubs. For most of them, they are. That's the way it should be, because that's where they go every week. They've tried to turn up for training nearly every day. That they're the home fans, the ones that they're trying to win stuff for. But playing for England's a bit different. When these players are youngsters and they're knocking it around outside wherever they play, you can't play on the streets anymore, can you? So probably in the backyard.
The
if
old
they've got
pitches.
One. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the Johan Cruyff pictures. Yeah,
the little cages.
Yeah,
little cages.
Yeah. But they're all playing, saying I want to play for England in a World Cup and scoring in a World Cup final. I mean, everybody's done that. So, Dan, you're right in the sense that if it benefits these individual players, it will then benefit the clubs, whether it's Liverpool or whoever. But the flip side to that is that they're going off for 10 days or whatever, different training regimes. They will get, the respective nations, the coaching staff and the medical staff will get told, look, if this person's on a certain programme, could you please do X, Y and Z? And most of the time they'll do that. But, every now and again, that's the reason why these players get injured, because they are something slightly different, and because they're also finely tuned as athletes and, professional sportsmen, is that when something's slightly different, sometimes it can have an effect on them. But as long as these players, come through it fine, then it's good for Liverpool.
Joe, it will obviously it will be a huge boost to Oxlade-Chamberlain to be involved again with the national side, and as Doyley's alluded to there's likely to be a sense of understanding and realism about Gareth Southgate and the England setup, in terms of they're not just going to throw him straight in the team and make him play 180 minutes back to back. So are you confident that in a fortnight or so's time, Liverpool will reconvene ahead of the home match with Newcastle, hopefully with a sharper Oxlade-Chamberlain on their hands ready and raring to get stuck into the Geordies?
I'm never confident that you come out the international break without injuries. It just, you always just dread these couple of weeks.
Hopeful then, rather than confident.
Somebody will get injured.
Somebody probably will. But look, if Oxlade-Chamberlain plays in those games, even if he plays a little part in them, and plays well, I think it, like Doyle said, it'd be great for Liverpool. I think for him, he likes playing for England, and it won't half help his confidence. The battle he's had to go through to get back to where he is now. Starting a couple of games back to back, I think did him the world of good. Starting in a couple of different positions. All right, he wasn't great in the Super Cup, but I think he'll have learned from that, won't he? And Liverpool learned a lot about him playing him out on that left hand side, and then back in midfield. I think he looked good against Southampton. And if he can play in that similar position for England, I think it'll do him the world of good. But I hope it's only for about 5 minutes at the end. and then he comes off, he scores a hat-trick in those 5 minutes.
Wrap him up in cotton wool.
And he comes off and he's fine. So, yeah, I hate the international break. It's awful. They should never have them. They should make them play football 2 games a week, every week, all summer. Yeah,
flog them. That's what you want.
They get paid enough. Just flog them.
Wow.
Speaking of flogging, just bringing it back onto the game tomorrow then, before we do our predictions and team selectors. Jurgen Klopp spoke briefly today about his relationship with Sean Dyche. There seemed to be a slight bit of tetchiness between the two managers at the end of...
Sean Dyche. Yes, to give him his proper name.
Dyche, sorry. At the end of the game in December. At the same time, even though they've clearly got vastly different footballing strategies and ideologies, it's hard not to admire the work that Dyche has done with Burnley for a club with very small resources, and they will fancy their chances tomorrow against Liverpool, won't they?
He's a massive Liverpool fan. Seriously, he was brought up as a Liverpool fan. Yeah, so not secretly, but obviously they'd been made up when they won the Champions League. But he'll be more made up if they beat them on Saturday. I mean, we know what to expect from Burnley, the way that they play the game, and it works for them, and they've got players, that it's like the old school 80s. You'll remember when you go to certain places like Wimbledon or Luton with Mick Harford, or when you're playing likes of Hull with Billy Whitehurst. And our podcast listeners will have no idea who any of these people are.
Ask your granddad, kids.
But they're not they weren't the world's greatest players, but they made life a lot difficult. And in today's game, they're few and far between now. And Burnley have got exponents of it that are very, very good at it. So why wouldn't you?
Ashley Barnes has scored. Hasn't he scored more goals than anyone but Mo Salah and Sergio Aguero in 2019?
In 2019, yeah.
Great goal at Wolves.
It's a great strike.
So he's somebody who he's technically, you wouldn't say he's in the same class as those players we just mentioned, but he's no fool. No. And he's got the physical attributes to go with that. And he'll know exactly how to get at Liverpool. But Virgil van Dijk, isn't it? So that's why Van Dijk again makes such a difference, that he's able to cope with these kind of players.
Well, Josh Williams, also known as distance covered.
Distance covered, also known occasionally as Josh Williams.
Yeah. When he changed his profile name, I was just like, God, I was like, who's Josh Williams? And he got rid of the little green picture. Who's that man? But yeah, Josh Williams.
The fact that he sits on the same table.
He's very quiet. He does his little stats, and he was doing his Burnley ones. And his piece about Burnley, I was laughing with him about it. It was mad because essentially, long story short, is they're crap. And,
they don't want the ball, do they? They don't want
the ball. They don't want any of the ball. They let you have about 100 shots a game. They hardly have any shots of their own. But they just seem to get through fine. And maybe that's the secret to Dyche's success, that he just goes, don't bother playing well. We'll just come out and we'll get results. And I don't really understand how you go about preparing for a game like Burnley. I mean, it must be a difficult one for Klopp and his coaching staff, but I think it's another one of those places that everyone goes, oh, it's tough, but more often than not, teams win there. So I think for Liverpool, they've just got to go into it in the mindset as it's not as tough as many make out, and if they're anything like as good as they can be, they'll swap Burnley aside and move on.
Gorst, you'll have heard the expression that used many times over the years. You've got to earn the right to play, and it probably applies to trips to places like Burnley as much as anywhere else. The one thing that strikes me about this Liverpool team is that they've shown an awareness of the need to operate like that over a period of time now. So whereas maybe in times past, Liverpool supporters would have approached the fixture like this with maybe a certain degree of trepidation that some of their top players may not fancy it, that's not really the case anymore, is it?
No, it isn't. You normally associate, some of the best players in the world with, sometimes they're not mentally at the races, and if they get a tackle early on, they shake, and it's a bit of a cliche, and it certainly doesn't apply to this Liverpool team. They've got character in spades, and they've shown it so many times over the last season that I don't imagine a trip to Turf Moor worrying them too much. It will be a difficult place to go, as it always is, and Klopp was saying today, teams go there and if they win, they don't turn them over, they don't win 3s and 4s, and Liverpool won't be the same, but I still think Liverpool will come out of it with the points. They've just got to dig in and dog it out, and they've got the style and the know-how to do that these days, which hasn't always been there.
Right, well, we'll begin to wrap things up then. We'll come back to you then, Gorsty. What's your 11 to take on the Clarets tomorrow?
Well, I think it's obviously Xherdan in goal. I was warming to the Gomez at right back 30, but
tell me and Joe said it. I definitely don't want to do it now.
I think I'd stick with Trent at right back with Van Dijk and Matip, Andy Robertson, and then midfield 3, Fabinho, and I'd probably put Milner in there.
Scored there last year, didn't he?
And Henderson, and then my front 3 is have a guess.
The usual suspects.
Can I just say Turf Moor is very difficult to get to because there's only one road in and out, so it is a difficult place to go to. So
there you go. For all those Reds fans travelling there tomorrow, traffic advice provided by Ian Doyle.
If you were a football ground, you'd be Turf Moor. Wet, windy, miserable.
No, I think you find you would be because it is Brexit heartland. If you were listening to our last podcast, you'll know exactly what that's in reference to. Brexit.
I'm putting my foot down as host for the first time. We're not talking about Brexit. Pick a team for me, Ian.
Any team? I would have Joey Goey at right back, as he's now known. I wouldn't have the Ox in the starting lineup.
He's fine.
I go along with Milner playing in midfield. So I'd have 2 changes: Joe Gomez right back and James Milner instead of Gini Wijnaldum, which is a bit harsh on Wijnaldum, but I think he'll have a part to play. I don't think Liverpool will make massive changes. Jurgen Klopp, as Joe pointed out, mentioned maybe 1 or 2 tweaks, and I think they might be the 2.
Fair enough. Joseph?
Yeah, I'd have Joe Gomez at right back. I'd probably keep Gini Wijnaldum in midfield, bring Milner on should you need him. Yep. That's it.
Always a good first sub, Milner.
Yep.
Either you go. Anyway, predictions.
I'll say 3-1 to Liverpool.
3-1.
3-1.
I'm going to go for 2-1. Narrow, tough, hard fought, all the usuals.
All the usual Burnley cliches.
Yeah, they're all going in.
Yeah, no, I 3-1. I honestly think Burnley usually seem to get a goal, don't they? Liverpool are conceding them this year, and they'll have a corner or a set piece that'll wobble Liverpool at some point. But other than that, I think Liverpool will do it.
I think a lot might depend on the keeper in terms of how he deals with it.
Perhaps, yeah. He's proactive though, isn't he?
He's played 6 years in the Premier League. It's not like he's just come from Spain.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for whoever because. Yeah. I mean, I think Burnley's goal in the last game should, in fact, to Burnley's first goal at Anfield. Yeah, Burnley's first goal at Anfield.
Oh, it was a farce.
That was a foul.
Yeah.
And then the goal that they scored at Turf Moor was offside and a foul or something like that. So basically, goals that would never be allowed because of VAR.
There you have it. 3-0 then.
I'm going to go for a 2-0. I think tomorrow might be the day Liverpool keep their first clean sheet of the season. But we shall see. Thank you all for listening. I hope you all continue to enjoy listening to these Blood Red podcasts, and obviously give us your feedback on the Echo's Twitter feed, Live Echo LFC, and via the Echo website. We'll be back with you on Monday when we will look back at the weekend match against Burnley and also ahead to the international break, which, as you know, we all love to bits. Have a great weekend.